Yeah. I went on trying to find like a photo that I can like edit as well and use.
That was a good photo. Yeah, no, like I looked through my album on my computer and
Yeah.
photos I had, I was like, I don't know. Like,
All right, let's see. I think we are live finally on YouTube. Let me just double check. Can everybody let us know if you can hear us?
album
Okay. Catherine, I think I can't hear you now for some reason.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you now.
Okay.
All right. Just waiting for someone to confirm if you can hear us well. Let's see. Yeah, okay, they can hear us. Perfect.
Is it okay? I don't have headphones to use or a microphone. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Roger Yates. Oh, Roger. How are you? He says sound is very low for Catherine. Can you let us know? Because I'm getting a message as well that says they can't hear very well. Could it be that it's an option related thing
I think
anyway?
it's my headphones. The problem is that they're Bluetooth, and when I do Zoom calls, they'll turn off automatically after like 30 minutes at a time.
Okay. Can I change one audio setting on my end? Um, Alright, now David says her sound isn't coming through, can't hear Catherine. I think this is before. Because like we're a few, like I don't know if it's like 30 seconds before the stream or something. So I'm just gonna check. Let's just give it another minute and see if it's working, because I had one option. Okay, they can hear now. See, there you go. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, for that feedback, and thanks, David, for helping us out with that as well. Appreciate it. It took a while. And I was telling before we start that I did all of the tests this morning to make sure it's gonna go well, and then a minute before we start, I realized, okay, it's not working. So thank you all for joining. This is something that we had discussed to do for a while now, and we never really found enough things we disagree on to actually make a debate out of it. So I think we have like less than 5 topics that we disagree on, probably 3. But in general, we will also just take questions, or if anybody wants to give us a topic and says like, hey, can you guys discuss this? And we'll go ahead and do that. I also want to say that if you don't know Catherine, please check out her channel and subscribe. And if anybody wants to support this, you can also do the donation with the super chat. I'll be sharing any amount of donation that I get with Catherine to support her activism as well. So I mean, I don't get a lot of donations, Catherine, but we'll probably get a falafel sandwich each, which we can always be grateful for. So thank you everyone for joining. I really appreciate your time, and I think one of the things that we know for sure we disagree on is the term, the usage of the term vegan. But before we get into it, I wanted to quickly ask Catherine if you want to introduce yourself for those who don't know you, and just if there's anything you want to share.
Well, my name's Catherine. I have a channel. Um, I'm constantly referring to Seb's videos because I find that like we agree on so much. So if someone's like, "What's your take on this?" I'm like, "Here, watch this video." Um, yeah. Right now, I'm going through this like identity crisis of do I even call myself an activist, because I've been taking like a long hiatus. I've done like a couple things here and there, but I don't know like where the line is for when I can assume that term for myself. Because I did used to do a lot of activism, and then COVID happened, and just a bunch of shit. But I do aspire to do more activism in the future. Right now, I'm just focusing on work and my YouTube channel. So
Perfect. Thank you for that. Is the reason for the identity crisis also related to you reading Digital Minimalism and starting to wonder if you want to stay online?
yeah, a little bit.
Oh, I was told to read that, but I'm not reading it on purpose. Because
It's
after
really
putting
good.
all the work, I just don't wanna. I don't wanna like get rid of everything. I tried to do all this time. Okay, so I think we can start with the first subject, which is the usage of the term vegan or animal rights activist. Now, I made a video. I wanted to schedule it for it to go live, and then before mine goes live, or even I think before I even edit it, you put up a video with the same subject. We had that with two different videos where you posted something and then I posted one as well. Second one was individual change versus system change, and that's something we can address as well. Oh, they say Seb is quiet. Oh my god, this is what's happening. Let me see. Why did it say it's quiet? What about now? Is this better?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, that's weird. Well, they can let us know if it's still low. Anyway, yeah, I wanted to talk about this topic of veganism versus animal rights. I'll give my stance first, and then you can go ahead and share yours. So this is something that I think came up in the animal rights community a few years ago. I think around 2 years ago, people started saying like they don't want to use the word vegan anymore, the term vegan. They don't want to refer to themselves as a vegan. And at the time, I was like, oh, they're just trying to get attention, or they're trying to be different or something. So I was not a fan of the reasons they were using, the arguments they were giving. But after a while, I started really considering it, and I did land on some posts that were actually giving good arguments. Obviously, I don't want to generalize. Some of the arguments were good. And I decided to give it a try myself, and I started using the term animal rights activist or advocate, or just animal rights in general, instead of saying vegan. And I saw a massive difference in the conversations I was having. Now, the main thing that I saw as important that made me change my stance to use animal rights or animal rights activists, etc., instead of saying vegan, is because I realized the word vegan in itself doesn't have as like a strong, it doesn't weigh as much as animal rights does. And I realized when we mention animal rights, the attention of the person goes immediately to animal rights. Whereas when you say vegan, they have all these ideas of what a vegan is, or what a vegan looks like, or what do vegans do, or vegans are annoying, and this and that. So that all stopped happening when I switched the terms and I started using I'm an animal rights advocate, or let's say I don't eat this because I'm an animal rights activist, or I believe in animal rights, etc., etc. And other than this, if you just go on Google Images and write vegan, literally nothing related to animals comes up. All that we see is food related, and that kind of also reflects how people think of veganism. It has become, whether we like it or not, a term that is mostly used regarding food. I mean, we even call it vegan food. I even call it vegan food. But recently, I've been even thinking, what should we call it? I think the right word would be vegan-friendly food, because it's friendly for vegans. But the food itself cannot be vegan. It can be plant-exclusive or plant-based. But I definitely started struggling with this, because I was thinking, well, I don't know if I should stop using the word, but I did see a massive difference. And when people ask us, oh, why don't you eat this? Alright, someone's saying my background noise is too loud. There's literally no noise in this room. But anyway, if so many people mention it, I'll check what it could be.
The room I'm in, like, there's no air conditioning blasting, so I don't know.
All right.
I know my audio might not be the best because I don't have my microphone and stuff with me because I'm visiting family,
Yeah,
but
that's all right. Someone did mention earlier, Catherine, you're not sitting on the floor. Why is that?
I'm at my sister's house in her guest bedroom, so that's why I'm in bed.
um, yeah, so I do think that the correct term, even for food, should be like plant exclusive or plant based or vegan friendly, um, but not, let's say, vegan food. But I mean, obviously this is something that I would have to change as well. I'm not there yet. But in general, I do think using the term animal rights is better, because like when someone says, why don't you eat this, you say, well, I'm an animal rights activist, or I believe animals deserve basic moral rights, therefore I will not eat this. Whereas when you say, because I am vegan, yeah, you can follow up with more stuff, but it just weighs more, in my experience with the conversations I've had, um, when I go straight into the animal rights message.
So people might be disappointed in this debate because I don't know how much I really disagree. I think that I share, have you heard of Colleen Patrick Boudreau?
No.
So she's an vegan animal rights activist, but she talks about the overkill of the word vegan, how people use it too much when they refer to something as, oh yes, would you like this vegan cupcake or this vegan? It's like, it's just a cupcake. Like we don't need to be like,
Yeah.
um, because her argument was that by putting the word vegan in front of so many of these foods, it kind of implies that it's different or weird or not for people who aren't vegan. This is a vegan cupcake. It's for vegans, but it's still a cupcake.
Yeah, that's
It
true.
doesn't have animal product in it. And I also think that avoiding the word in certain contexts can be strategic. So myself, I typically use the word animal rights. For example, when I first started doing outreach, like with the Cube of Truth, I ordered a lapel mic off of Craigslist or something, and I went to pick it up. And I was paying like $20 for it. And the guy asked me what I was doing with it. And I told him, like, animal rights activism. And then he ended up giving it to me for free. It was like, here you go, you can have it. I hope it helps or whatever. And I don't know if that would have happened if I had been like vegan outreach. um, and another example that comes to mind is so there's this program, I think it's just in the United States, but it's called the Educated Choices Program. And they give presentations in schools about animal agriculture and the detriment, like in terms of the environment, health, and the ethics. And they specifically avoid using the word vegan just so they can gain access to classrooms because it's a little bit harder to do that if they're plastering veganism all over their website and stuff. So I think that's just strategic, but where I kind of lose uh, the argument is when people start saying that we should do away with the word altogether and that it puts the focus on humans and that um, it just people will deny that they themselves are vegan. Like I know Orlando, the DXC activist who seemingly popularized this idea, he will straight up say that he's not vegan. That's where I
Yeah.
disagree.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if David Rams is still online, but I think he did a live with Orlando regarding this subject, and Orlando even admitted that he drank non-vegan wine is when he was with non-vegans to make it seem like being vegan is easy, which is, it really reminds me of the approach that what was his name? The guy who works with Melanie Joy, Sebastian. Was it Sebastian? No. Oh
I think that's accurate.
He talks about vegan-ish, as in making it seem like it's easy to be vegan. So like let's say he said like if you go to a restaurant with a non-vegan friend and there's a really tasty vegetarian burger and a non-tasty vegan burger, then you should go for the vegetarian one. He has that stance, and what Orlando was talking, to me it seems that he leans more towards that. I don't agree with that either. I think like I would never say I'm not vegan. Like obviously what I do falls in the definition of veganism. I just like prefer using another term for it. But if someone says, "Oh, are you vegan?" I say, "Yeah, of course." Like I'm not gonna deny that I'm vegan. Um, so yeah, um, I think that's that. I'm not sure we have a massive disagreement there. But
So, do you agree with the entirety of that DXE post that I went through on
yeah,
video?
I think I see. I don't agree with all of it because I think they also had almost an anti stance. Like I'm not against. For me, it's a preference because of the experience I had while not using the word and replacing it with animal rights. But that is quite anecdotal, just because that's how it went for me doesn't mean that's how it's gonna go for other people. And maybe for some other people in other surroundings, saying animal rights is not gonna give the best outcome. Um, Alright, sorry, I'm just gonna quickly mention, it was Tobias Leonard who said that, not Sebastian. I was confusing Sebastian George with Tobias Leonard. Thank you, Roger, for that. So yeah, I'm not against, like, I would not advocate against the word vegan. I would definitely, I would share my stance the way I did in the video, just because I think those are important conversations that we should all have. And I think in general, conversations that make us reflect on what we're doing and how we're speaking are important in the movement. And unfortunately, on social media, they're so polarized that it's almost impossible for people to hold those different views, and that's why I put it on the thumbnail. Can we agree to disagree? Like obviously, you and I are gonna agree to disagree on some stuff, but in this day and age, it's almost impossible for people to agree to disagree. I mean, obviously, some things are not easy to agree on with disagreeing, but I think less heavy or important things are fine to disagree on. The other subject I wanted to talk. Do you want to share anything else regarding this?
There was something and then I lost it, but it might come back.
Okay, I'll quickly check the comment section in case there is something that's related to this. David says vegan food, vegan clothing, vegan cosmetics is just an easy way to label something that contains no animal products, isn't it? It is, but yeah, for that reason I also prefer vegan friendly instead of just vegan. But that is just something I started thinking like less than 2 weeks ago. Because I started reading a book by Simon Hill. He has the podcast called Plant Proof, and he uses the term plant exclusive to refer to what we call vegan diet, and that made me wonder about that. Focus more on suffering with a word I would suggest. Roger says, I use rights-based vegan animal rights just to confuse people. No.
Oh, I guess I could add that I think, oh my goodness, I keep losing my train of thought. It had to do with that post.
Do you think that post was a while ago, right? It's not gonna be easy to find it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, if you remember it, we can just come
Okay,
back to it.
sorry guys.
We can easily come back to it. All right, let's see. I'm not gonna read all the comments because there's so many, but I'll just scroll down and stop every now and then. Should vegan food be renamed animal rights friendly food? No, I wouldn't say animal rights friendly food, but vegan friendly food, I think personally. is much better. If also someone can mention if my mic is better now, that would be good. Do you want to say something? Did you remember now?
Yeah, so the problem I have with his argument in that post was that he's kind of giving in to the carnists trying to define veganism.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, veganism is so misunderstood, and people assume it's a diet. And my argument is just that we should reclaim the word for what it truly means and not give in to this, like people
Yeah.
are misinterpreting it. That's
I get that, but my question would then be, are we really enough to reclaim a word that by tens of millions of people worldwide already means something else, including like food companies that make plant-based food call it vegan food. Like it is so like that when you hear vegan and like anybody listening can try this as well. Just go on Google Images and type vegan and see what pops up. Um, I am skeptical of how much power we have over reclaiming the word and making it mean what we want it to mean. I mean, if we do end up doing that, it would be absolutely amazing. But I really feel like we're way past that point, and yeah, I don't know if it would be giving in a negative way to the carnists if we did that. I think it's to a certain extent. I think it's fine. But you mentioned that in your video, right? I do remember you saying that in your video.
mm-hmm.
All right. Just checking. What is the difference between a vegan activist and animal rights activist? I think you. I mean, well, okay. So this is a good point. We can also mention some people are animal rights activists, but they're actually not vegan, as in they don't follow plant-exclusive diet. That would be people who, let's say, fight for dogs' rights, or I don't know, elephant rights, or wildlife rights in general. But then I'm also not very comfortable calling them animal rights activists. I'm just referring to them as like wildlife animal rights activists, or selective animal rights activists would be much more correct, I think. Because you're selecting which animals you're fighting for. It's weird. It's like calling. I mean, no, it wouldn't be the same. I was gonna make a comparison with a human rights-based issue, but it wouldn't be the same because then it would demand you actively take part in the oppression of others. But yeah, it doesn't make sense to do that. I think if someone is referring to the title of this video, it's almost just to please the gods of algorithm and YouTube. It's not because there is such a thing as it's if you're here because you think Catherine and I are having this huge debate and fight about veganism and animal rights. That's not it. That's just clickbait, and I'm sorry you fell for that.
But I do want to add one thing
Sure.
to that. So if we switch to saying animal rights activist, many people might assume you work at shelters or
Yeah.
you fight for elephants or whatever it is. But I think that it's important to use the word vegan because it makes it more clear that to be an animal rights activist, like veganism must be part of that.
Yeah, actually, vegan animal rights activist. That is more complete, right, and specific. Yeah, I definitely. Yeah, I could try that as well. That could be my next like randomized control trial. Okay, I think we can go to the next subject. I just want to mention Roger Yates did point out something important I want to share. He says, I think plant exclusive originated with Neil Robinson, the first ever vegan professional footballer who played for Everton. That's good to know because I was wondering if anyone had used that before, and I think it's the most correct term we can use when it comes to the food that we consume on our diets. I understand the sentiment, but I'm not fighting over a word. It's okay, no one is fighting here. It's just an open discussion. Okay, we can talk about the next subject. This is something, I don't remember which video it was in. You were mentioning your stance regarding different examples or situations, and you mentioned, let's say, if a box of cereals has some honey or some, I don't want to say like incorrectly. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. It was
Yeah.
my video about Peter Singer.
Okay.
So I was making a distinction between a flexitarian, which I think Peter Singer is a flexitarian based on his statements
Yeah.
about the kind of exceptions he makes.
Mm-hmm.
But I was distinguishing between a flexitarian and what I would consider a flexible vegan. And to me, I'm a vegan who happens to be a little flexible with the phrase, like, as far as possible and practicable, being allowing it to be somewhat open to interpretation. And I think that this is a sorry, I'm gonna lose my voice. I think that it's okay to have a little room for disagreement there. And I have examples, like specific examples that I could give.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
I'm not advocating that people go buy cereal that has honey in it or whatever.
Okay.
The example I gave in that video was that I was staying at an Airbnb and the host had a bunch of leftover food. They were going out of town and they were like, just eat whatever is in the pantry because it's going to get stale and go bad. And so I ate some Honey Nut Cheerios because for me personally, I recognize that honey is not vegan, and there's no moral justification to support the honey industry. But since I didn't purchase it and I don't feel as strong of a conviction about it, and I don't know, I just ate some of those Honey Nut Cheerios.
Catherine Klein exposed.
I know, I'm gonna get canceled on here. But
So.
Okay, we can start there. I have more examples, but
okay. So my question is, would you have felt the same if instead of honey it was something that contains meat?
Yeah, I'm more disgusted and I have a stronger conviction towards certain species like cows, pigs, and chickens and large fish. Like I don't.
Is that based on sentience or?
It's based on like their emotional range. So I think it's terrible what we do to bees, and I recognize that it's exploitation, but I don't think because of their tiny, tiny brains and their shorter, or what's the word? They just don't have nearly the emotional range that these other animals have. I don't think it's fair to call honey production a holocaust. I don't know if you feel the same way. I don't feel as strong of a conviction.
Yeah,
and I don't think that's necessarily based in logic. I think that's just based in emotion, but I'm just being honest. I don't know.
I think, I mean, you don't necessarily have to consider it a holocaust in order to see whether or not it's as bad as other industries, let's say. However, I do want to say that I think it's irrelevant how much of emotional or intellectual capacities they have, because and I think you know where I'm gonna go with this, but if it was a baby who doesn't have that emotional intelligence or even the capacity, you know, the disabled human being, you wouldn't consider it less bad than harming a fully developed or able person, right? I mean, I think we agree on that.
Right, like I don't think it's a justification to cause harm.
Yeah.
Because even if we don't know, like I think we should err on the side of caution and not exploit beings that could potentially feel pain. I mean, we know that bees are sentient, but we don't know like how much what's really going on in there. Like, it's not much. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, if we don't know, then might as well not do it, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
that's why I think that it's not a good idea to go support the honey industry by buying jars of honey. And
Mhm.
but I don't buy Honey Nut Cheerios. I just had a moment of, well, I didn't buy this and it doesn't really gross me out, and it might not be rational, but I don't I
I
just,
don't think it was a rational decision, that's for sure. Because like
yeah.
that I don't buy this one. You know, I think we all know people who say like, oh well, I'm not vegan because like if I'm at a dinner and or like if I went somewhere and I wasn't the one who bought it, you know, I eat it.
Mhm.
It's not really a justification or even an argument. I know you're not trying to justify it, but just like
Yeah.
on a rational level.
Yeah.
And other than that, I think let's say it's also quite a personal thing when you say like I'm not disgusted by it. Like yeah, honestly, I'm not disgusted by honey either. I know like it's bee vomit, but it doesn't necessarily disgust me.
Mhm.
But I still don't think that then that would make it okay. But I do want to say something else. In your case, if the case was that the person left the Airbnb and that food is going to be thrown away, you're not causing extra suffering or exploitation by consuming that food, whether it's honey or meat or anything else. I think the only because it would be similar to eating roadkill, and although there is no active um, cause or active um, initial action that causes harm on your behalf, the problem is when you share it, you at the moment confirm that other animals' bodies or secretions could be used as resources. And I think that's where it becomes a problem because like yeah, if somebody eats roadkill, if somebody only survives by on roadkill, they could probably cause less animal suffering than me, a vegan who buys products that are transported around. Um, but that person would still be contributing to the idea that other animal bodies are resources for us to either use or, or consume. And I think that's where it becomes more of a problem because, like you mentioned it in the video, and my main disagreement would be the fact that you mentioned it on a video, not the fact that you did it. Because again, if it's going to be thrown away, you're not causing extra suffering. In fact, if you went out of your way to buy food, even if plant exclusive food, it would cause a certain amount, very little, maybe 0.1% suffering, unlike eating food that is already there. But sharing it would unfortunately not justify, but confirm for those who are not there yet that yeah, it's okay to be a bit flexible. But that's also one of the reasons why I'm personally not a big fan of the word vegan because of this, as far as practically possible, which is such a gray zone. You know, if you tell someone like, well, veganism is about doing it as far as practically possible, like okay, but who decides what's practical? For some people, it's not practical to eat something at a restaurant um, because they believe like, oh, it's not practical because I'm gonna get hungry then when I get home, blah blah blah. It's like who's deciding that, you know? I'll
Yeah.
let you continue.
I I've struggled with this because it is hard to draw a line in terms of practicality,
Mm-hmm.
because it's hard to draw a line between like needs and desires. Like, certain things are our only true needs are what? Food, water, shelter. But then we live in a society and then we start lumping in other needs like healthcare, and even cell phones are becoming more of a need. And then another example I'll give, I'll just out myself. Okay. So I took Accutane years and years and years ago. And no, that's not vegan. It was tested on animals. It has gelatin in the capsules. But I had such terrible acne and it like ruined my self-esteem. I was just like, fuck it. And I took it, changed my life. My skin was super clear. Years and years later, I'm having like acne again. It's not nearly as bad as it was, but it's enough to where it bothers me. And I try to shop when I purchase like face wash and lotions and stuff. I have to use like specific dermatologist recommended like fragrance-free products, and it's very hard to find just in a general store because all of the vegan cruelty-free products are like they have ingredients that the dermatologists don't necessarily suggest like putting on your face if you have sensitive
Yeah.
skin. And I finally found a brand that was met all of these criteria, and it was vegan and cruelty free. And so I was ordering this brand, and I was paying like a high price for it too. And then I ran out, and I was about to leave for Hawaii, and I didn't have time it wouldn't have shipped in time.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let me go to the store and try to find like a gentle face cleanser that's not gonna um, react with my prescription topical cream that I'm using. And I spent like 30 minutes reading all these ingredients and trying to find, and eventually I was just like, fuck it. And I bought this product. I won't name the name because I don't want to like promote this brand or whatever, but
Mm.
I was just like, fuck it. And I bought a bar of soap that wasn't vegan. And it's
Yeah.
like, to me, it's like, yeah, technically I could have avoided doing that. I could just deal with my acne and it's not impossible for me to live with skin that's breaking
Yeah.
out. But it's
Mm.
just like, I, I try, you know, and
Yeah.
I want clear skin.
No, I
What do
understand.
you think about that example?
Okay, actually, before I reply, I wanted to check something because I got again another message about my mic. I really think there is an issue. Um, I'm just gonna check something real quick because there's a. Oh wow, what happened? Alright, okay. There's a setting here that I might be able to change, so I would like for someone to tell me if it's working better now. Okay, I think now it's working actually. I think all this time it was picking up the audio of my laptop. Can you say something?
Does it help if I mute myself when I'm not
No, no, no.
talking?
It's not on your end. It's my end.
Okay.
I can't see the difference between the. I don't know what you call them when you're speaking and the mic line goes up and down. Like, yeah, now it's reacting. Okay, yeah, yeah, yes, better. Okay, I'm so sorry about like night and day. Wow, it took me so long to realize it was actually using the microphone of my laptop. Yeah, all the comments are confirming. Okay, so apologies for that small problem. Um, Regarding your example, first of all, I wanted to ask, can you share the vegan one you found in case someone is watching this and they realize,
Yes.
yeah,
It's the brand name is called Save, so it's SAVE, and they have like a gentle cleanser that has fragrance free, and my dermatologist approved of it. And then they have like a lightweight moisturizer that's oil free.
okay,
So those are the products I use, and they are kind of expensive, but I always wait till they go on sale, and then that's when I buy them. But that's what I found that.
all right, okay, that's good to know. Okay, regarding the whole issue, I think so. If it was me personally, and yeah, again, I can't speak for you, but if it was me personally, I would rather have a few days of bad skin or a few weeks or whatever. Um, but I also do think that you shouldn't beat yourself up for it. Like it's I don't think it's right, but you're also a vegan animal rights activist. It's not like you're doing this because you don't care or you're apathetic or whatever. This is obviously something where you tried your best, it didn't work. I'm wondering, I'm pretty sure I've had something similar. I can't think of one right now, but I wouldn't be surprised that I at some point have tried really hard to find something vegan. Um, and then I ended up choosing something without being sure. I'm pretty sure I've had that. I've never bought something consciously, while being consciously aware that it's not vegan. But I'm pretty sure in my 7 or 8 years of being vegan, I have at some point thought, well, I can't find out, so I'm gonna buy it because I don't have another option. So
Oh, that
yeah, it's similar.
that relates to my next example, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's the thing, because obviously we want to know all the time what is vegan and what isn't. But sometimes if you literally don't have the option of finding out and you've tried everything, you're just gonna go with what's available. And we have to keep in mind that we still don't live in a vegan world. Like not only do we not live in a vegan world, we're nowhere close to a vegan world. So to assume that we're always gonna be able to find the vegan product that we want, I think it's a bit illusional or delusional, whichever is the right word here. What should I say? Illusional or delusional?
Delusional, I think.
Delusional, yeah. So yeah, that's my stance on that. Is there another example you wanted to share, or was that it?
Yes, I came with all the examples.
Okay.
I'm just exposing myself.
Okay.
This was recent too. So
yeah.
I was at the airport, and it's hard to find vegan food at the airport.
Yes.
Let's be honest. But that's no excuse to like eat non-vegan food. I totally get that.
Yeah.
But I found a Vietnamese like banh mi shop, and they had a tofu banh mi, and I was like, perfect. And so I ordered a tofu banh mi. I ordered it without mayo, but I'm not 100% sure what's in this bread. Okay, it could have like egg or dairy in it or something. Most bread is vegan, like 95% of it's vegan. But the line was super busy, and the woman didn't speak great English. So I didn't want to like make her go look at the ingredients and then relay that back to, like, it was just in that context, I was like, whatever, I already got it without mayo. It's like the bread's probably vegan, but like whatever. And it was like a busy line. I didn't want to be that person, you know? And I think that's a different context than sitting down at a restaurant, the Peter Singer example, where he's sitting down at a restaurant with friends and he's like, oh yeah, I'll just order this meal even though I know it has ghee in it. It's fine. I don't want to make a fuss. It's like in that situation, a perfectly reasonable request to like politely ask your waiter to go check the ingredients. And but in the other context, I was like, it's probably vegan. I don't want to make a... Do you get the difference in the context?
No, I definitely get the difference. I would still not do it. And I think there are certain things that come with just better organization. So I know that airports don't have vegan food. So if I'm ever going to an airport, I'm going packed with vegan food. I think that's
I do. I brought a bunch of snacks and stuff. I just wanted like vegetables. I wanted like a meal. I had a 6-hour layover or something.
Yeah. I think what I would have done was definitely tell her, no, I would want you. I mean, I've actually done it in an airport in Jakarta, capital of Indonesia. We asked them to get the boxes of pasta and check the ingredients on the back to make sure it had no eggs. There was no huge line. I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, it's a bit different, but I think...
And her English wasn't great, so I wasn't sure that even if she checked the ingredients, if she would be able to...
So what you can do, because obviously I live in Indonesia and they don't always know, like they don't always even understand how serious it is when you say you're vegan, even if they understand what you mean. First of all, I just say like I have an allergy. The second you say you have an allergy, they're much more careful with what they're giving because they double check. Second, you use Google Translate. It's the most useful thing for traveling. Just write down, like I have like a list that I copy paste. It just says I don't eat anything that has animal products, and then I have the names of all the animals and all the possible byproducts like fish sauce or milk or butter and blah, blah, blah. And then I finish it with because I have an allergy. That's just because I know they're going to take it more seriously if I say that. If there's no language like barrier, then I just have the conversation with them and I let them know. I do think, however, as awkward or weird or difficult the situation might be for you in that moment with the queue and everything, I do think the right thing to do would still be to ask them to check, regardless of the queue and the, because in fact I think that would be even like almost a moral obligation, but not really. Let's say like 75% moral obligation, if that's the thing, because then if enough vegans do that, they realize maybe we should label things as vegan or not. And when things start having the label vegan on the menu, there was a study that was showing like the more you add vegan options on the menu, the higher the percentage of people actually choosing. I think it was like just by adding 5 vegan options, or I'm just throwing a number now, but there was an actual study. By adding 5 vegan options on the menu, the chances of a person choosing a vegan meal is like 30% higher or something like that. So I do think it's much better and even important to make that like a very unpractical like way of dealing with it. And I did it with a friend here recently. Not like there was no queue or anything, but we went to a cafe where I knew they're not gonna have soy milk, and I was gonna just get tea. But he had been there before, so when I arrived and he had asked already before, I also asked, "Do you have soy milk?" And he said no. I knew he's gonna say no, but it's just the idea of them keep on getting that request, like, oh, people are asking for soy milk. So I think that's a better way to go, in my opinion. Or thou shall get cancelled.
Yeah. I don't, yeah, I don't entirely disagree, because that's how I felt about the example Peter Singer gave, and why I don't agree that vegans should just eat a plate of food that they asked for no cheese, it comes with cheese, so they are supposed to just eat it, supposedly, because they don't want to make vegans look bad.
Yeah.
I think that it's important to be like, no, like, I'm not going to eat this in a way that, yeah. I guess with the banh mi example, it was just like, it's probably vegan and this line is really long. And in that case, like, it might make vegans look a little unreasonable if you're making someone go check when they have like a line full of people and the cooks are all.
I think it's even more like firm of us. I think we should be like that, because it's like the more firm we are with our stance, the more seriously we are taken. I mean, it's not like you made it obvious that you're being flexible or kind of like in the gray area. If you were wearing a huge like vegan t-shirt and at the same time we're yelling that you don't know if it's vegan and you still ate it, obviously that makes it look like, okay, this person is really flexible. But yeah, do you have any other examples?
Okay, yeah, final example. So this was a few years ago. I was at work and my coworker offered me a mint after lunch. And first of all, I feel awkward declining mints or gum, because I'm like, are they offering this to me because I need it? Like I should probably take it. No, but he offered me a mint, and they were the large Altoids. So I buy the minis, which are vegan. They don't have gelatin in them, but for some reason the larger ones have gelatin in them. And I just know this because I'm vegan and I read labels all the time. But my coworker has no idea that there's gelatin in these mints. And so by accepting the mint, I wasn't like, he wasn't thinking, oh, she just bended her morals and took this non-vegan mint, mwahaha. Like, it wasn't like that. I just accepted it, and I didn't see it as a big deal because it's such a tiny amount of gelatin, and he doesn't know about it, and
but you know,
I didn't buy it. Like, all these factors, I was just like, yeah, I'll take it.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I would disagree with that as well. Because like if I felt that okay, so first of all, I think this is more common in the States, because I don't even remember when was the last time I saw someone chewing gum. I don't know if it's common in the States to chew gum, but like
I don't like gum either.
Yeah, for me, the whole idea of chewing being able to chew something for 7 hours and still like having it in your mouth is already weird.
Ew.
Like you're not supposed to be able to chew
Yeah.
something for that long. But yeah, I would definitely think that, okay, in case this is because this person thinks I should eat something, I would just try to grab a snack somewhere, like, I don't know, a banana or something. I think in general it's always smart to have some snacks with you, like peanuts, it's
And I
easy,
usually do
small.
have mints on me,
Yeah.
but
All right. That doesn't pass the check either. Joking.
oh, that's too. You would decline the mint?
No, yeah, I would decline it. I would never. No, I wouldn't do it, especially if I'm sure. Like
Mm.
if I'm not sure, I would go like, let me think about it, do my research, blah blah blah, check on Google and everything. But if I'm sure, it's definitely for me.
Well, okay, question
Yes.
then. This moves into my next argument, which. Okay, so I just want to say that I read ingredient lists when I go to the grocery store. I don't buy food that has gelatin or
Yeah.
honey or well, I've also gotten better as a vegan. I used to be a bad vegan. I've gotten a lot better. So maybe I
Okay.
used to do this, but now I don't.
That's
But
good.
I don't buy things that have animal byproducts in them, okay? But sometimes if I'm out or in the situations I just listed, basically, byproducts don't, I don't have the same conviction to avoid things like gelatin or sugar processed with bone char or even like a little bit of, I don't know, certain ingredients.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think I know
vitamin
where
D,
you're going.
which is fortified in foods that are otherwise completely vegan, but since it has vitamin D3, which was extracted from some stomach of some animal, it's like, here's my argument. Buying that product, and again, I don't buy these products, but I'm just saying, it doesn't, I'm explaining why my conviction is lower. It doesn't drive the demand. Like the only reason there is gelatin in these products is because of the demand for meat, dairy, eggs.
Yeah.
Like we have all of these animal bones. What are they going to do with them? They make gelatin, and then all these products, they use them because they exist. You're not driving the demand by purchasing something.
I agree with that. Yeah, I don't even think that's something people can disagree on, because that's just a fact. Like the reason why a lot of animal byproducts, and when we say byproducts, we really mean byproducts, not like something with milk, like no, byproducts.
Right. Yeah. I'm not talking about milk or whey. Whey is a byproduct of dairy.
Okay. Yeah. So I didn't know that actually. But yeah, the reason why they are in so many products is because they are there, and the industry is like, let's make use of it, and they use it. But yeah, obviously, as you said, like you don't buy it, but I like these products will not have these ingredients if the meat industry stopped existing, because no one is gonna kill animals for gelatin, to my knowledge.
Right. Yeah, because it's not even necessary. It's not like a mint needs gelatin in it.
Yeah, but it's like
it's gonna lose its structural integrity or something. Like,
I mean, did you know like a lot of plastic bags have chicken fat in it?
Yeah, that's so weird.
Like to be able to
I learned
separate.
That from the other day.
It's so weird, but yeah, they're not gonna start killing chickens in order to make plastic bags. It's just like, okay, we have this and let's use it. Okay, no, we agree on that, and yeah, as you said, like you don't buy it because of this, but you recognize that it's not the same thing. I agree on that with that as well. Is there anything else?
Let me see. I had like a bullet point list for to do some. Oh my gosh, hold on.
Gonna check the comments meanwhile.
I have such a hard time with speaking, and especially in the morning, like my voice just goes out.
That's true. Is it like 10 a.m. there? Was it 12 hours difference?
Yeah, it's Yeah, it is 10 a.m.
Okay.
Okay, let me see what else I had a bullet point for. Okay, yeah, I basically said I recognize it's not just about the demand, it's also about taking a symbolic stance against animal exploitation. So I think there's a symbolic difference between eating from a cheese plate at a party because you just can't resist cheese, or the example I provided with the banh mi at the airport. Like, I think there's a big difference there. Do you know what I mean?
Eating cheese from a cheese plate?
Yeah, like I think that sends a stronger social
Yeah.
signal to others that
Yeah, it does. Especially,
normalizes eating animal products than me purchasing that sandwich not knowing with 100% certainty there was no animal product in the bread. Like, I don't think that I was actually normalizing eating
yeah.
animal products in that scenario.
I think it's, let's say, if in my opinion I were to give, let's say, on a scale from 1 to 10 of how wrong it is, if, let's say, eating cheese in a social gathering because you can't not have some cheese is 10 out of 10. Personally, I would see the your example with, I don't know, like maybe 6, but mostly because no one around you was aware of it, but it also still bad enough because it might have caused extra demand for whatever animal ingredient that sandwich might have had, that you didn't know about. But yeah, I agree with that. It's definite doesn't have the same weight, that's for sure, especially like in the setting of like a social gathering. It's not the same thing, and obviously being 100% sure like this is cheese in front of me, that's not the same thing as there is a chance that this bread is not vegan. But if people knew around you that you're vegan and that you're not sure, and then you did it, then I would have given it a 9 out of 10.
But do you think that in each scenario, so in the scenario with the cheese at the party, you didn't purchase the cheese, so you're not really influencing the demand. But I think it's worse because of the symbolic act that you're normalizing eating cheese. But in the other scenario, I might be perhaps influencing demand in a small way, but I'm not. It's like so insignificant, that tiny amount in the bread, that there might be.
Numbers wise it would be much less. I agree with like the numbers wise, but when it comes to the first example you gave with like if you're at a party and you had it there and someone else bought it, you're not influencing the demand. I would say to a certain point you are, because the more people eat, the sooner it ends, the more the hosts can think next time let's get more cheese because more people are eating cheese. So you are indirectly contributing to the consumer demand as well. That is aside from the point that you're also confirming that cheese is, I mean, we should, or it's morally acceptable to eat dairy products in general. Checking if there's anything in the comments, but I think it's more conversation between each other. If anybody wants to directly send a question for and doesn't want us to miss it, feel free to use the super chat option. If anybody joined this recently, any donation that I receive, I will share it with Catherine. So we would appreciate that. But otherwise, we're also going to try our best to keep up with the questions. But at the moment, there's a huge conversation going on, I think even about organic food and things like that. So anyway, do we have another point to discuss? I don't remember if we had anything else where we disagreed.
I mean, I could just add on to the topic of like what's possible and practicable.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I know a lot of vegans take issue with the self-described imperfect vegans and will say stuff like, you're either vegan or you're not. But I don't think it's that black and white. Like, I think it's okay, like I said earlier, for there to be room for interpretation regarding what is possible and practicable. And here's my reasoning for that. So, and my sister got into a conversation about this the other day, but where you draw the line logically doesn't always perfectly line up with where you draw the line practically. And there's this quiz online. I think Cosmic Skeptic made a video about it. It's called the Moral Parsimony Quiz.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really interesting because before you take the quiz, there's a disclaimer, and it says, you're supposed to answer the questions based on what you think is morally consistent, logically, with your general ethical framework, not based on how you'd actually act in the particular situation. So you might recognize that it's morally right to save two strangers' children over your own child, but how harshly would you judge a mother for saving her child in that scenario?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, at what point does she become a moral monster? Like 3 children, 4 children, like it's hard to draw the line.
Yeah.
Even though logically it's easy to draw the line at 2, but practically and emotionally it's harder to draw the line. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I've talked about this before once. Before I do the lectures in universities, I reached out to ask yourself to ask him for some advice and basically some training of logic and philosophy, because he's so good at it. And one of the things that I asked was about this, just out of curiosity. And he mentioned there's actually a school of thought, or whatever it's called threshold deontology, where where this exact thing, like, it's like, yes, at some point it's similar to like, okay, either you kill one person or I kill 2. Okay, and you know, obviously it's better that you kill one, but you wouldn't do it. But at some point, at a certain number, like I'm gonna say, or I kill 100,000, you're gonna say, okay, well, if that's the case, I'm gonna kill. But in threshold deontology, you know that there's that one certain number that changes everything, but you don't know what that number is.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a really interesting one, because
but how that would relate is like, I recognize that, I mean, I consider myself a fairly rational person, but I recognize that not every single one of my actions is thoroughly based in rationality and is consistent with my morals. Like, but that's why I think it is okay to be an imperfect vegan, as long as you aren't trying to justify it, or like, but then of course there's a line at which I would say, okay, that person's not vegan, you know. But like, would you call me, from your position, like, are you gonna say that I'm not vegan? Like, where do you draw the line?
That is a good question, because I have seen enough of your content to not feel comfortable with saying you're not vegan. I don't feel comfortable, so I wouldn't call many of your actions vegan, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not many. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I might agree with you too. Like, some of those actions weren't vegan, and
but for some reason, I guess because I know where your ethics and what your stance is, I don't feel comfortable with claiming that you're not vegan. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, like, because then, like, where do we draw the line? You know, I've flown a lot. I've used a lot of airplanes, and yeah, inherently speaking, it's quite a destructive way of transportation. But then I have all these reasons, like wanting to see my family, or being able to do lectures in a certain amount of universities and schools. So at one point I had this rule with myself where I would say, like, if I'm gonna travel, then I would check how much, like, carbon footprint that's gonna leave the flight, and then calculate how many people I would have to make, like, go vegan in order for, like, to create a carbon offset. So let's say per travel, I have to make sure that at least, let's say, 5 or 10 people go vegan, and then I offset the carbon that I used. But these people have to be vegan at least for a year. Like, I had all these rules for myself. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's not like there is an alternative to flying the same way that there is an alternative to eating meat or other animal products. And I do hope that flying can be made more sustainable. But yeah, at the moment, it's not sustainable, and I will use it again, you know, when I want to see my family. So yeah, I think based on that logic, I cannot claim that the same doesn't apply to animal rights. Unfortunately, I think to a certain extent we are all hypocrites, and I also don't think that's the worst thing in the world. For example, I loathe the system that Amazon has and Jeff Bezos. I hate it, and the more I find out about it, the more disgusted I am. But my socioeconomical status doesn't always allow me to shop where I want to shop. And I have shopped many times from Amazon, knowing fully well their conditions. But just because I know that the other shops that offer the same thing didn't offer me the price that is like that can meet my budget, let's say. So I think because I'm aware of that and I don't feel good about it, I can't ignore the fact that being imperfect in a society that's so messed up is sometimes almost like you can't run away from it. It's gonna come back to you in some way or another.
Yeah.
Just checking the comments. I don't think there's any question. All right. Is there anything else you want to add? Anything to that?
Let's see.
Your list.
I think I covered most. Oh, I guess I kind of wanted to touch on gatekeeping a little bit.
Okay.
Like, I think that if we're going to gatekeep, which we should to some degree, because otherwise the word vegan would just lose all meaning. But I think we should focus on behaviors that actually have a significant impact. And like the behaviors or the examples I gave today, I don't see them as having I'm not saying they don't have an impact, but a significant enough impact to be policing people about. And I don't think you're not doing that to me. Like, I think it's fine that you disagree with me and you wouldn't do that yourself and you don't think it's like a vegan action. But I just think, how do you feel about gatekeeping?
I personally prefer a more motivational and helpful method over gatekeeping. I'm not a fan of it in all aspects, not only veganism, everything else as well. It also depends on the relation that I have with the person. If it's a very close friend, I might act in a very different way than if it's a complete stranger. And like if a stranger tells me like, guess what? Like I used to do this and do that and eat all these animal products and now I do it once a week and things like that, I'm not going to reply the same way as I would if my friend did that. Because if my friend said that to me, I'd be like, really? Like once a week? You know, but then again, like it also depends from the friend. So, but in general, I'm not a huge fan of it. I really prefer calling people in and motivate them and help them out and see why they're not doing it the way I believe that they should do it.
The one last example I have about this topic of gatekeeping is, so I'm about to expose my sister here. She and I disagree on a few things, you know, and she is, I would consider her a flexitarian. Like she is mostly vegan and her motivation is the ethics. And now she eats backyard eggs from her sister-in-law. And those are the only eggs she eats. And personally, I think that's not vegan. And I don't think we should normalize that behavior for various reasons. But the reason she still calls herself vegan is because she does not want to ever consume factory farmed eggs. So when she's out and about, she doesn't want to have to explain to people. She doesn't want people thinking of her as someone who eats eggs and they give her something that has egg in it. So she eats eggs, but she doesn't want to eat factory farmed eggs. So she just says she's vegan for that purpose. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, I mean, it's not fine. Like, I disagree with that, but like, I understand her reasoning for using the label vegan
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, it does reduce the amount of
Mm-hmm.
harm she causes. So how
Yeah.
do you feel about that?
I think she should use the term animal welfarist, because that's what she's actually worried about, the welfare of animals.
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it doesn't help us when people who are doing what she's doing use the term vegan.
Hmm.
Obviously, it's not like she's showing to the whole world, because you're her sister. But well, wherever she's consuming those eggs from, and one day if there's people around her like, oh, she's vegan, she eats eggs, and then the more people do this and the more people use the term vegan, the more it's gonna dilute the message. And Roger Yates did mention this at a workshop once. He was saying that the more as the movement grows and more people join, the more the core values of the movement can start like get diluting because of the simple fact that so many people are joining. And I think that's definitely what's causing what we're seeing now with the vegan movement. But yeah, I think the correct term should be animal welfarist over vegan.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think that
Yeah.
the line that I draw is not, it's not that.
Yeah, no, I know. I didn't think that it. Um,
But she is my sister, and I'm just like, I just let it go. I'm like, okay, like I.
there's only so much you can do, but hopefully she will
Yeah.
stop. Hopefully she'll stop soon. Should I go ahead with some questions? Because I saw a
Yeah, I
few
think so. I
questions.
think we can wrap up soon because I'm getting really hungry.
Okay. All right. There was a question. Damn it! I didn't want to lose it. Okay. What are both of yours thoughts on the intersection of sexism and speciesism? Do you want to go first?
Um, I don't know if I have a lot to say because I haven't, it's been on my reading list forever, but I still haven't read The Sexual Politics of Meat. So,
Yeah.
um, I
Well,
guess
go ahead.
you
Sorry.
want to go ahead.
No, no, it's okay. Go ahead. Whatever you can share.
I guess I would say I lost, hold on one second. Okay, there we go. It is interesting how meat is perceived as masculine because when I was younger, like in high school, I worked at a sub shop and I didn't even, when I was a kid, I was not that into meat. Like it kind of grossed me out. I was very picky about veins in my chicken and I didn't eat fast
Mm.
food meat because it grossed me out, all this stuff. But when I started working at this sub shop, it might have been because I had a crush on one of my coworkers and I wanted to like impress him or something. I don't know. But I like pretended that I loved bacon and all this stuff. And I would eat a lot of deli meat and I did like it. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy the taste, but I think I pretended like I loved meat a lot more than I actually did. And I would joke about how my friend was a vegetarian. I was like, I could never do that. I just love bacon so much. And I think that that was internalized misogyny because
Yeah.
meat is masculine and I wanted to be one of the cool girls who was
Yeah, no, I
those
can
other
understand.
girls. I don't know.
I like it. There's so much society pressure as well, especially when you're young. So I think that makes sense. For me, I mean, my stance is, I don't know if it's, oh, my thought is that when we see other animals as different and in certain some ways less strong than us, weaker than us, and then we try to justify that as a reason or a justification for us to use and exploit them and objectify them, then I think it only makes sense that that same logical reasoning, well, I call it logical, it doesn't mean I agree with it, that people start using it with other humans as well, whether that's based on sex or race or any other factor that can play in that like equation. If it's like, oh well, women are weaker, therefore we can use them or exploit them or whatever, or black people look different, therefore we can use them or exploit them, or I mean whatever. I mean it could be religious based or any other identity that can be used as a difference, therefore it's justified. I definitely think there's a link there. And it's also interesting how a lot of a lot of things that are related to eating meat are related to things that are somehow connected to being sexist. So let's say, like we talked about eating meat and being macho, you know, or feeling that you're like this, I don't know, like whatever the terms are to describe that. But then therefore you are also this alpha male, you know, and with that you can enter the area of toxic masculinity, with thinking all those, like, I don't know, sexist ways of thinking about women. So I definitely think there's a link between the two. I wanted to quickly address a few comments about what I said about Amazon. Someone even said that that's not true because there are more ethical ways to shop online. Not necessarily. I completely disagree with that. Not always for the products you need, and not always for the same price that you could get at Amazon. This doesn't justify anything that Amazon is doing. And I made it very clear that I loathe that. But at the same time, you can't just think that everyone can afford to buy from a place that doesn't have that. And to give you a very, very simple example, I was buying, I wanted to buy boxers like a year and a half ago here in Indonesia. And thankfully, there's no like big animal exploitation, a human exploitation industry when it comes to clothing here in Indonesia. But still, I was thinking, you know, I'd rather be safe and buy fair trade, because a lot of the clothes here are made here. And I went to so many shops looking for fair trade boxers. So I was like, well, I can pay a bit more. But what I thought I'm going to pay was nowhere near the actual price of the fair trade boxers. So I had a budget of like, I thought, okay, maybe $4, maybe maximum $5 for normal boxers. I don't mind paying like $10, you know, for a bunch of boxers. And $10 was like kind of a limit for me. It was $55 a pair to buy fair trade, because it also came as organic cotton, and it was actually made to be sold to non-locals. So like, I can't afford that. That is like a big bunch, like a big part of my Patreon income. I can't spend that on a pair of boxers. You know, if I got two, that is $110. That is 1/8 of what I make a month. You know, and I went and bought the non-fair trade one. And similar things can happen to people who live in some places where they don't have access to the same shops that you have access to, that have more ethical standards, and they're going to have to buy from Amazon. And as much as it sucks, it is the reality of the world we live in. And I do think that the system functions in a way where those who don't have the same socioeconomical background end up exploiting each other, because it's literally made to work that way. It's made in a way where those poor families end up buying from companies that exploit humans as a circle, because that is what they can afford, because exploiting humans makes the product cheaper. And who's going to buy it if it's cheaper? Those who don't have a lot of money. So yeah, unfortunately, I hope that changes, but and I still like have a clear stance on Amazon, but it doesn't change the fact that in some cases you got to do what you got to do.
I would shout out a ethical brand
Sure.
where I got underwear from that was the cheapest ethical underwear that I could find.
Which one?
If you live in the States, maybe, I don't know if they ship
Okay.
internationally, but it was Pact, so PACT, and they might sell male clothing as well. So
I'll check it out. The
throwing
problem
that out
with
there.
the problem with Indonesia is that anything you import that costs over $3 which is like basically everything, has a ridiculous import tax, like ridiculous. I have two friends ordered boxers and underwear from, what was it called? Something Organics. It's a very famous one. They're very present on social media, and they had to pay like over $100 in import tax. So maybe another time, but packed. I'll keep that in mind.
Well, just if anyone here is
anyone,
living,
yeah, anyone who's looking for that, who doesn't want to sell a liver to buy a pair of boxers, that's good to know. So PACT, right?
Mhm.
All right, good to know. Okay, just checking some last comments. All right, I'm just gonna come down. I don't think there's any other questions. I'm sorry if I miss any, but we're almost at 90 minutes now. And Catherine is getting hungry, so okay, I think we can wrap this up. If more things come up, we can do another one another time, that's for sure. So thank you all so much for joining. Catherine, do you want to add anything else before I finish this?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, do check out Catherine's page. I know we talked mostly on things that make her seem like she's not really vegan, but that was kind of the point of the thing. Like, we want to talk about what we don't agree on, and she had those few examples, but obviously what she does is much more than what she shared with us now, and you can see her
I guess
stance.
I will say one last thing.
Yes,
then.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think that it's more important to recognize that veganism is about the anti-speciesist ideology than it is to worry so much about like the personal purity of like every last trace ingredient that you might consume. Like, I think the philosophy and symbolism might outweigh demand regarding like the trace ingredients, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, and it's kind of connected to a video that I'm gonna be making very soon, but I'm not sure it's gonna be perceived well. But I do have a specific stance on. I'll let you know. I'll message you about it, but it does make sense. So thank you for sharing that. So yeah, I wanted to thank everyone for joining. Do check out Catherine's page and subscribe, and all the hit the notification button, blah blah blah. And for anyone who doesn't know, my ebook is published now and for free in 20 languages on my website about animal rights and logical fallacies. You can download it for free. And that being said, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel as well. And I will see you soon, very soon. And hopefully we'll do another session as well. Thank you again.